Bill Maher, back in Cleveland, is going to be on this show next week. Always like catching up with him. If you want to be at the show, be caller 10. Simple enough. And these 2 tickets are yours. Good luck. 216-578-1007 or 800-348-1007.
Welcome to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Forget the Rock Hall. When does Poundcake go into the Country Hall of Fame?
My truck, my beer, my guns.
It's the Alan Cox Show
on 100.7 WMMS.
All right. Guardians baseball tonight, 6:10 is your first pitch. So we will get out of here closer to 6 o'clock. And they start up tonight against the Detroit Tigers, right around the corner at Progressive Field. A lot of people already walking around downtown tonight in their Guardians gear. And it should be. I thought it was going to be raining all day today based on what it looked like this morning. But it should be
nice out.
Yeah, it should be nice. Beautiful weather for a ball game at Cleveland, Ohio tonight. 60 and partially cloudy. Well, there you go. Nothing wrong with that. I will have Buzzard Fest tickets for you in about a half an hour all this week. Tickets for you to join us out at Victory Sports Park in North Ridgeville on Friday, August 4th. These tickets are already going very, very quickly, which is no surprise. It's been 23 years since MMS has done Buzzard Fest, and so we're bringing it back this summer. Incubus, Bush, Live, Filter, Welshly Arms, Kaleidoscope Kid, Winona Fighter. A couple of those you might not be hip to, but rest assured, it's going to be awesome from tip to taint. We'll all be there, hanging out with you guys. BuzzardFest.com for tickets and info and all that. But I will have a pair to give to you every day this week around 4:20. If you want to go see Clutch, I'll hook you up with those this week too. And if Monster Jam is more your speed, then I can take care of that too. You can leave us messages if you listen on iHeartRadio. If you do it from out of state, tell me where. And again, you're under no obligation to do it, but I always do appreciate when bureau chiefs update where they are. Rodney was one of our bureau chiefs in Dallas, and he hit me up and goes, "Hey, I moved to Garland, Texas," which for all I know is up the street. Jake's in Orange County, California. Ray is one of our Canadian bureau chiefs. He's in Vancouver. Molly is in Denver. Diane's in St. Louis. Brandon listens in Jersey City, New Jersey.
Disregarding what you say is easy, Alan. You're a no-talent ass clown.
Ass clown needs to come back. I don't hear that a lot. Ass clown, I don't know if it is funny, but it makes me laugh when somebody calls somebody an ass clown. And it's really low-hanging fruit, too, but sometimes the best insults don't require a lot of thought. So, no talent ass clown, that hits me right where it needs to hit me. So thank you, sir or madam, for that. Take it as a badge of honor. Speaking of Texas, Alan, are you going to talk about the shooting? I mean, what is there to say, really? I don't know what to tell you. I have to admit that it's gotten to the point now when you read about a shooting, you wonder if you're looking at an old article. You have to check the date. If you turn on the television, or like if you're listening to news radio or something, they'll be doing breaking news. But otherwise, if you're just looking at stories, I found myself checking the date, because that will happen sometimes, right? You'll see stories that'll make the rounds. Listeners will send me like funny stories all the time, and I go, boy, that sounds, because they're not checking the date. Right. They see the headline, we're all guilty of it, and they'll send it to me, and I'll look at it, I'll go, boy, that sounds familiar, and I'll check the date, and it's 5 or 6 years ago. So if I'm going through Twitter over the weekend, and it says, mass shooter kills 9 people at a shopping mall, for a half a second I go, that's probably an old story. Nope. Brand new story. Guy who went in and to a mall in Allen, Texas. A lot of shootings in Texas. Because you can walk around. Open carry, no training, no permit. You don't need anything. It's Texas. So you're kind of taking your life into your hands. And the people in charge, it seems like that's what they want. You know, there's that old phrase, when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of what they want. They want people running around, ready to, I guess, kill other people in case it sells more guns. It gets people all worked up. So, you know, I don't know. I don't know what there is to say about that. I will say, you know, I've said before, it's extra tragic when attractive people die because there aren't that many of them. But it's even more tragic when smart people die because we sure as balls don't have many of them. And I was reading about, they were doing profiles of the people who were killed, and one of them was a young woman who was an engineer. She was among the victims, a young engineer from India who was over here. I don't know if she was going to school, but she lived in that area. They said they were going to have a hard time notifying her next of kin because her family still lives in India, and her body would be sent back there. So that is extra, extra tragic when somebody smart dies because we desperately need those kinds of people. So obviously, in the immediate aftermath of something like this, they do a deep dive into the victims. They do a deep dive into the shooter. I saw a photo on Twitter. I wish that maybe a bright side of Elon Musk being on Twitter is he seems to be open to the notion of just having photos on there of shooters that have been killed, or I didn't see any photos of the victims, but I saw a photo of the shooter after he had been killed. So he's lying there, his head's bleeding out, he's dead, but he's head to toe in tactical gear, this guy. So I initially saw the photo and thought that a cop had been killed. I was like, ooh, this thing got serious. But no, it was a shooter. And so they're diving into what was going on with this guy. Fox News is trying to tell people he can't be a white supremacist because he was Hispanic, which is complete nonsense. Two of the most famous white supremacists in this entire country. You got a guy named Fuentes, and Enrique Tarrio is one of the Proud Boys. One of these guys that just pled guilty to sedition. So that's got nothing to do with it. So these are domestic terror attacks. I don't know what you say to that. I don't know how you react to that. They asked one of the representatives in Texas, I think this was his district, so obviously they went to him and said, hey, what are your thoughts on this? Or how do you think that something like this should be addressed? Or, they have to go through this. They go through the motions of putting people on television who are in positions of authority and going, what do you think we should do? You can sit there and mouth their answers along before they even say them because you know exactly what they're going to say. And they got thoughts and prayers from this guy, and the anchor pushed back a little bit.
Now, Congressman, that is a common refrain after these incidents, after mass shootings, but many people argue that prayers aren't cutting it. Prayers are not preventing the next mass shooting. What is your response to that criticism?
Well, those are people that don't believe in an almighty God who is absolutely in control of our lives.
Yeah, that's that guy's answer. That's whoever the rep is down there.
Pretty big swing and a miss there.
That was better. Thoughts and prayers and like it.
Yeah, well, but it's also a sentiment that means nothing. There are plenty of people who believe in God, but are clearly God's got nothing to do with any of this. So for this guy to just go, well, those people, thoughts and prayers, it's God who's got all of our lives in his hands. So God is to blame, or it's just one of those things that means nothing. It's a word salad that is not going to do anything to ameliorate the issues that people are going to have with this kind of stuff. They put a guy who was like, I used to be a sheriff, and I was in the Army, and listen, man, he was like one of the first responders at this thing, or he might have just been a shopper or something. And invariably, people like this don't take these things seriously until they're right there, which I guess sooner or later we'll all get our turn in the barrel to take it seriously. But this guy was like, you got to get these things, you got to get these ARs and these M4s off the streets, man. Somebody posted Missouri is another one of these states where you can walk around, open carry, no permit, no license. Somebody posted video on Twitter. They were staying at a hotel in downtown St. Louis. It's like 2 a.m. and they hear a commotion. They look outside. Just dudes walking down the middle of the street with AKs and or whatever I don't know. They're just walking around, having fun. Hoping that this guy, though, they threw on TV. He's got a cowboy hat on. He's like, I used to be a sheriff and I was in the Army and we got to do something different.
I work around people that have mental health issues. I don't know what the gunman's problem was. I don't know his motive, but it wasn't mental health that killed these people. It was an automatic rifle with bullets. That's what killed them. I'm a gun lover. I have guns. I'm a former police officer. I'm a former Army officer. But these M4s and AR-15s, they've got to get off the streets or this is going to keep happening. And we've got to stop that at some point. It could be you. It could be your family member. I never imagined it would be me. I never imagined it would happen in my community, but it did. And we've got to stop this type of carnage. And all the politicians are going to make statements. They're going to offer prayers and condolences. Prayers and condolences won't bring these people back. We need some action in our legislatures at the federal and state level for better gun control. And I'm saying that as somebody who loves guns.
Yeah, so if it's not thoughts and prayers, they always go back to mental health. They go, well, it's a mental health issue, and it's not really. It's not a mental health issue. The vast majority of people with mental health problems, A, are not violent. B, every country in the world has mental health issues. It's a byproduct of being a human being, is mental health issues.
But to kill someone, to take a life on purpose, wanting to do that, I think you do have some type of mental health. That is a mental issue.
Nobody's denying that it's a mental issue, but when these people say it's not guns, it's mental health. By the way, Texas has the lowest rate of access to mental health care in the entire country. So if these people were like, look, this is awful, we are committing to tripling our state mental health care funding, you might have, maybe you'd have a sliver of credibility when you fall back into the warm, comfy blanket of it's not guns, it's mental health. But they don't do that. Not only do they not do that, they slash mental health care funding in a lot of those red states. So the only time right-wingers, by the way, pretend to care about mental health is when it's Joe Biden's. Every other time, he couldn't give a fat, wet, slippery turd about mental health. So, I was reading about how Texas wants kids to learn battlefield care.
Oh, geez.
Rather than do anything pragmatic about it, Texas wants to teach third graders how to make
dress a
tourniquets.
wound,
Yes.
I mean,
They're like, hey, here's something we can do. We want third graders to learn how to, 9-year-olds apparently are too young for what? History, sex ed, drag brunch. But apparently they want them to be Civil War doctors in the third grade. They're like, see, we're finally doing something. We're going to teach these kids how to make tourniquets for when,
Well, all I'll say is, and this is a very selfish thing to say for me, but
we expect nothing less.
I would feel way more comfortable if, God forbid, if a mass shooting were to happen around here, I would feel more comfortable with having the same weapon that they used, because the only way you can fight fire is with fire, as far as I'm concerned. Like, that's the only way I'll be able to sleep. I want my gun, so I don't want them to take them away.
But that's the whole. But nobody's talking about taking them away. There's too many to take away. But when you pass legislation that says anybody can have them, not only that, we're not going to do any checks on you. You don't need a permit. You don't need to know how to use it. That's insanity. It's absurdity. It's insanity. Nobody's talking about taking your gun away. But that's the whole good guy with a gun thing. And that's how far we've moved those chains, by the way.
I'm just a scared guy with a gun. Don't come. I'm busting because I got to. I want to survive.
No, but they finally killed this shooter at this mall in Texas, but a dozen people had already been shot. So it's like that's what constitutes good news now. is, well, they got the guy before he could do any more harm. Well, he already killed 8 people. He wounded 6 more. I mean, so that's what constitutes the good guy with a gun.
Okay, but I want to counter that with they say that, oh, mental health is an issue. Where does the line, I don't want to say a slippery slope, but where does the line end? Because is it going to be, have you ever had a history of, not necessarily bipolar, but have you been on any antidepressants? I have. Does that mean I'm not qualified to have a gun?
Well, those would be
but you would have already been not qualified.
What's that supposed to mean?
Just a lot of other stuff about you.
Such as?
But also, but to Poundcake's point, in those states, they don't care. You can walk. They aren't asking. They're not asking
but he's
any
saying
questions.
if they put it,
they wanted.
If they put that in, if they've made that, I think it's
You're talking about
it's going to be a line that's much further down. It's going to be like, have you been institutionalized? Have you been? Are you on record threatening people on the internet? Things like that.
And I'm going to say everyone does that, and then is there no chance for redemption? They're like, okay, yeah.
Well, how do you quantify redemption? Now, we're not talking about HIPAA laws here. We're talking about there are states that have red flag laws where it comes up and they go, this person threatened a person with a firearm. This person got matters of public record, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously, some of these people go out, stockpile guns, kill a bunch of people, and nobody saw anything coming. There's truly nothing you can do about that. But the reason that this country is awash in gun violence is because we're awash in guns. Yeah. Every other country has drug problems. Every other country has mental illness problems. Every other country has kids who love video games. It's got nothing to do with any of that. And this notion that if you can't fix, first of all, you're not going to fix humanity as it is. This notion that you can't do anything because you can't do all of it is silly. And again, these are the exact same conversations we all have every time this happens.
But again, you're trusting people to do their job exactly right. Like the people.
What people?
Are elected officials. So say someone's corrupt and like, oh, I just don't want this person to have a gun, or money is influencing them or something like that. It could be corrupt and therefore cheating them of their opportunity to get a gun or their Second Amendment. That's where like the checks and balances come into play.
Yeah, but you're not imposing, you're not infringing anybody's right, their Second Amendment rights, by saying, hey, you got to have a permit to drive a car. You're not infringing anybody's rights.
Yeah, but driving a car is not a right. The right to bear arms is a right.
Exactly. But you still have to have a license. You have to have a license, even though driving is considered a privilege. But automobiles are not made for the sole purpose of killing.
Correct.
Guns are. Guns have one purpose. It's not like you go, God, I can't find my hammer. Where's my gun? I got to get this nail in. They're not multi-purpose. They have one specific function, as to kill or maim. There's no other reason. Nothing else guns can do. So, you know, that's why I always think when these people drive through bus shelters or kill a bunch of people in the street, I'm like, there's a guy who couldn't get a gun. So it does happen, I assume. Or they happen to be in their car when they started having, at that very moment they were like, well, I can't take any more, because they had a guy also in Texas who drove through a bunch of people, killed a bunch of people. But I don't think they've ascertained whether or not it was intentional. But let's say it was. I don't know.
I've never been to a shooting range. Hardick was going to take me years ago, and I never took him up on it just because I don't know, I just didn't have the time for it at the time, and then I forgot about it. But maybe one of these days, I'll see if I'm a good shot, because I used to shoot my
mouth off?
my uncle's guns all the time in the backyard, but like I have never gone to like an actual range. So I want to see if I still got
pistols
it.
Or rifles? What would you shoot in the backyard?
He would let me shoot the rifle. He never let me shoot the pistol because he said he just didn't trust me with it. He said the rifle.
Wow, imagine your own relative goes, I don't trust you with a gun.
I was young.
Let me give you the rifle and not the handgun.
Because I didn't like shooting the rifle, because he was like, all right, it's going to hurt a little bit. I was like, it's going to hurt. I was like, what am I going to? He said, it's going to feel like getting punched in your arm. And I was like,
kickback.
I was like, I don't want to get punched in my arm. So I didn't like shooting the rifle. I was like, I want the pistol. He said, no, you're too eager. I don't want you using the pistol. I was like, I want the pistol.
Uh-huh.
My brother got to shoot the handgun. I wanted the handgun, but yeah, I used to shoot all the time. But no, I haven't done it.
Well,
in
let's
my
go
adult
shooting.
life. Yeah, let's go shooting.
All right.
Show day.
I'll take you. Anywho, we have the same conversations, and it's just awful and tragic and terrible,
And nothing changes.
and nothing changes. But it really does get your dander up when you hear somebody go, "Well, it's a mental health thing," or that guy who was like, "Well, the people need to believe in an almighty God." Okay, yeah, that'll help. That's so far he's 0 for 4 million, but let's go with that. I got a break. I will have those Buzzard Fest passes for you. As promised, we're putting this on August 4th after a long time away. Buzzard Fest